Welcome to Washington. I'm Hume. Urging people, in effect, not to vote for the more likable candidate might not sound like a compelling message for the final week of a campaign, but that is the message Vice President Gore feels he must get across, and he and his running mate have been stressing it for days, never more strongly than on this day, as Jim Angle reports.
Al Gore was back in Portland, Oregon for the second time in a week as he struggles to keep Bush from stealing states that usually go Democratic.
This plan's for you.
All right.
Great.
We're behind it.
As Anheuser-Busch would say.
After telling a family in a diner they would get more from his tax cut than Governor Bush's, Gore went to Portland Community College for his most pointed speech in weeks, one in which he took direct aim at Governor Bush's popularity.
The presidency is really not just a popularity contest. If you want someone who smiles and looks the other way while special interests loot the surplus, then I am not your guy.
Gore also took note of Bush's argument that he can bring people together as he has in Texas, though Gore phrases it differently.
We need less partisanship for sure. But the real question is, who does he want to get along with? The special interests who want to pry open more loopholes in the tax code? The HMOs? The insurance industry?
As the election gets closer, the rhetoric not only gets sharper, but Gore is also trying to take some arguments Bush makes against him and turn them around.
What he is actually proposing, let's be plain about it, is a massive redistribution of wealth from the middle class to the wealthiest few. It is, in fact, a form of class warfare on behalf of billionaires.
With Bush still slightly ahead in many polls, Gore is feverishly hopscotching all over the country in the final days of the election. This week, he started in the Midwest with 2 days of bus trips in Michigan and Wisconsin, then took an overnight flight to Portland. From there, it's on to Los Angeles, then another red-eye to Florida, arriving at dawn, on to Scranton, Pennsylvania for a late-night rally, then Chicago, New Mexico, Missouri, Iowa for the second time in a week, and finally back to his home state of Tennessee, where he's struggling to hold off a strong challenge from Governor Bush. With only a week left in the race, the Gore campaign is stepping up the rhetoric against Bush. But it's a calculated risk for Gore, whose unfavorable ratings have been on the increase in recent polls, in some up around 40%. In the final days, Gore has to figure out a way to turn up the heat without getting burned himself. In Portland, Jim Angle, Fox News.
Having lured Al Gore back to the West Coast, George W. Bush prepared to head back east himself and pause in his aggressive campaigning of criticism of Al Gore for an event that appeared to be designed to showcase his so-called compassionate conservative side. Correspondent Carl Cameron reports.
George W. Bush kicked off the last week of this bitter, nail-biting presidential race, not with partisan battling, but with a quiet visit to a private, faith-based Christian relief agency with recovering alcoholics.
Have faith and just have a peaceful heart and, just having the good things in life without having to, struggle,
It's about as powerful a statement you can get. That's why we're here. God bless you.
It was an unusually personal and unguarded moment in the midst of a knockdown, drag-out political fight.
I quit drinking in 1986. Haven't had a drop since then. It wasn't because of a government program, by the way, in my particular case. It's because I heard a higher call.
Bush intentionally chose the emotional event instead of a raucous rally as his last pre-election stop in California to promote his plans to empower faith-based community organizations. Politics was not very far beneath the surface, however. Bush was showing a human side that Al Gore has been criticized for lacking. And even here, Bush contrasted their views.
He called programs such as these crumbs of compassion. I don't believe that. I believe programs such as these are the bread of life.
Before revealing his compassionate side, Bush displayed his comic edge. Reporters for Halloween wore baseball jerseys, seen here on home video, commemorating Bush's infamous line that a New York Times reporter was a major league vulgarity. And Cheney's response, big time. Bush laughed right along and said his shirt might someday end up in his presidential library. He posed with a bewitching Fox sound tech and an NBC producer in Texas cheerleader garb, and hammed it up a bit himself, donning a mask of himself.
Trick or treat! Which is it? Trick or treat!
It may be politically risky for Bush to take time out from the back-and-forth political battle with Al Gore, even for a short time, in order to show a softer side. But aides say it is an opportunity for Bush to show his humanity, his compassion, and his humility in describing what was once his alcohol problem, and his own self-deprecating humor in referencing one of his own off-color remarks. The Bush camp also hopes it's an opportunity perhaps for voters to recognize, or in some cases remember, that Al Gore has a reputation for sometimes changing personalities like a Halloween mask, Brett.
All right, Carl. Are we going to see more of this kinder, gentler side, or is...
what do you think of the shirt? I mean, there's 50 of these
I think that the phrase for which it was coined is not necessarily inapplicable here, Carl, to put it gently, old buddy.
Well, thanks so much.
Question now. Are we going to see more kinder and gentler from Mr. Bush, or is that
probably not? In the reality of this is he's got palm trees over his head. He's got a rally in Portland, Oregon in just a few moments, and it will likely be very aggressive, back to the raucous rally. There's a new advertisement coming out which will again raise what is an overarching theme for the Bush candidacy, and that is that Al Gore is not to be trusted, and the scandal era of Clinton-Gore's 8 years needs to be put to rest. So he will go right back to being the partisan, but he wanted to show that he has a depth of personality that is authentic, and contrast that to the slashing that Al Gore is being accused of on this day. Brett.
Carl, thank you very much. I trust and hope that you will have your laundry done by tomorrow.
And I'll get a tie and a jacket, and we'll be right back to it, yeah.
All right, Carl, thanks very much. Great shirt. National daily tracking polls continue to show George W. Bush leading Al Gore. The Battleground 2000 survey shows the Texas governor 5 points ahead of the vice president in a four-way race. The Rasmussen Portrait of America poll has remained steady, showing Mr. Bush with a 7-point lead, 47 to 40% over Mr. Gore. Meanwhile, the USA Today CNN Gallup poll, which has been, as we say, all over the place, shows the Texas governor now 3 points ahead of the vice president. That's steady from the day before, I believe. And the Zogby Reuters MSNBC poll also shows Bush ahead by 3 points. That, of course, within the margin of error. Coming up, the Bush campaign fires back hard at those Gore ads on Social Security and at Gore himself. We'll be right back.